Hello everybody. Well, it's Labor Day and we're running some trains here, and we have been contemplating over the past little while to redo our HO scale and our narrow gauge railroad over again. Now, we just did this just a few months ago where we changed the layout around a little bit. We added a bridge in that little gap there that you see kind of on the left that the Hogwarts Express is going over right now. So you may be wondering, why change it again? Well, there's a couple of reasons that we're going to go ahead and change this. And the first one is that we're using the Bachmann Easy Track, and we're using the little segments, and they don't always sit flat, and there's a little bit of unevenness to them, especially at the joints. And there's so many joints in this because we're using the little, the little 9-inch pieces of track or whatever it is, foot pieces, I guess. But at any rate, the trains don't really run perfectly over it. And the second reason is that there's only so much you can do with this Easy Track because it's so, rigid. It's sitting on the rail bed, the plastic rail bed. So there's really only so many shapes and configurations you can do with it. And we have seen a lot of inspiration out there on YouTube with people's HO layouts where they seem to be able to do a lot more with the space, similar space that we have, and they're able to do a lot more with it. And so we want to experiment a little bit with that type of a thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift up all this track, and of course we'll take all the trees and buildings off and things like that and start kind of with a blank slate here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Atlas Flex Track so that we can more customize the track layout to our space here and see how that works. It just seems like all the layouts that I see out there, that we see out there, utilize the Atlas Flex Track and some of the other Atlas type pieces of track, and they can do really elaborate layouts with the space they have. So we're going to try the same thing. We're going to do a little bit more with turnouts. So we'll hopefully at the end of it we'll have a couple of sidings and things like that. And then we're going to move the narrow gauge piece of it, I don't know, somewhere else on the track. We haven't really kind of figured out the details of what we're going to do. We usually kind of fly by the seat of our pants on that. But anyway, it might also require that we do add some sections. So on that far corner there where you see the controllers across the layout in that corner, where that piece of wood kind of cuts the corner there on the far side, we may actually connect the two corners of the layout. Let's see if I can get over there here. Kind of connect that corner over there with that corner over there, and maybe make a solid right in front of that post there, and give ourselves a little bit more to work with. So so that's the plan. I know it seems a little soon since we really just redid this, but we're learning more and more as we go, and I think this is something that we want to try. So so we're going to do the Atlas Flex Track and see what type of creative things we can come up with. And then we'll share the journey along the way with some videos. But we're running some trains today, just as kind of a last hurrah here on this little layout. So we've got Ryan running with our 3D printed coaches, and we've got the Hogwarts Express rolling here, and we also have Renius with our new N-scale box vans that just came out from Bachmann just recently, along with some little slate cars there. So so like I said, we'll keep you posted, and we'll go from there. So in the meantime, enjoy a couple minutes of these trains running on our layout. Okay, so even though we don't have our current layout completely dismantled yet, and we don't really know exactly how we're going to configure our new layout with the Atlas Flex Track, we did go out and buy some Flex Track just to have some on hand so that when we start laying track, we have a little supply here ready to go. So we bought 20 pieces of the 36-inch Atlas Flex Track that you can see right there. So that should be enough to get an initial loop going, and then maybe make some turnout connections as well. We bought 3 turnouts. We have 2 right-hand turnouts and we have 1 left-hand turnout so that we can kind of make a turnout in a little, connecting line inside our main loop. And then we also bought a piece of terminal track for making the electrical connection. And then what we did was we saw, as we were kind of doing our research here, we saw these little guys right here, which are terminal connectors that are attached right to the rail joiners. And so we just bought both just to maybe experiment with both and see how they work. So that should be pretty interesting, I think. We'll probably end up going with those connector terminals since they're probably easier to hide than the track the piece of terminal track. And then in addition to that, we bought a little supply of connectors. Just so when we start working, we have some connectors to work with. So anyway, that's our track supplies to get ourselves started here when we go lay down the new layout. We'll probably need more. We might even have leftover track here, not sure, but I think we have enough to work with. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that we are going with code 100 track. So the 2 main choices for the Atlas Flex track is code 83 and code 100. And the main difference between the two is the rail height. So if you looked at a cross section of the rail on the code 100 would be a little higher. Now the main reasons I can figure out from my research for the difference is that the code 83 track is really true to scale to the HO, to the HO scale, rolling stock and other locomotives and things like that. So that rail gauge should look exactly like it would be in real life, obviously miniaturized. The code 100, that rail is a little higher, so it's not quite the same. It's not quite to scale with the rest of the HO accessories. But the advantage is that, from what I understand, there are different flange heights on different rolling stock and locomotives and things like that. And that code 100 is high enough that it'll accommodate any kind of flange height. So that seems to be the big difference. And so we thought you really can't tell the difference. Maybe some really super experienced model railroaders out there can certainly tell the difference between code 100 and code 83. But I probably couldn't. So I think the code 100 is fine for us. We're not that fine-tuned to making our layout that super realistic. So code 100 because it'll probably accommodate more of the rolling stock and locomotives that we may run into as we gain more rolling stock and locomotives. So anyway, there's the track we're going to use. There's the rationale for using code 100. So we'll see you in the next video.